The city's foremost daytime concert and lecture series, Music N Mavens, returns to the Rady JCC beginning tomorrow and running through mid-March. Audiences can once again expect a diverse, thought-provoking, and entertaining afternoon of speakers and performers. To preview this year's Music N Mavens, producer Carla Burbrayer has joined me in studio. Good to see you, Carla.
Good morning, Simon.
Well, it's such a pleasure to have you here. We're right on the cusp of the 2023 edition of Music N Mavens. How are you feeling?
Very excited. It's wonderful to be doing this all live this year. We had some, hijinks last year where we had to do half of it virtual, but I think everybody's just so excited to be able to come back and do things live. And yeah, we've got such a great season lined up. I'm excited.
I'm excited, and I'm excited to get to the season. But just before we do, for those unfamiliar with the Music N Mavens series, can you tell us a little bit more about the format?
Sure. Well, Music N Mavens runs every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon from, as you said, January 19th through March 23rd this year. And it is a concert series and a speaker series. So it's almost like two series in one. Mm-hmm. There's a wide variety of music from folk, klezmer, jazz, every kind of music you can think of, as well as stimulating speakers that are university professors. Some of them are just experts in what they do. Oh,
it is. And I mean, it is one of those that when we think of series and performances, we often think evening, but that's not what Music N Mavens does. It encourages us to get out in the afternoons. How long has Music N Mavens been going on for now?
Oh, when the marketing department reminded me this year at the Rady JCC, this is my 25th year,
Wow,
Simon.
25 years of Music N Mavens. So, Carla, take us back. When you started this 25 years ago, what inspired this whole idea?
I have to be honest. My children were younger, little actually, because it's 25 years ago. And I wanted to do something in the daytime rather than working in the evenings where all the theater work I had done and all the concerts and musics I had done was always in the evening. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to have a daytime series? The Rady JCC had just opened recently, and they were really excited about the concept of doing a daytime concert and speaker series. So that's how it began. Out of selfishness, actually, that I didn't want to be working so many evenings with little children.
But it's obviously something that resonated with audiences, because here we are 25 years later with Music N Mavens. And one of the other things that, we've been talking about this for years on Classic 107, because it's one of those series that we get very, very excited about. But in speaking with many of the performers, it's also a cool opportunity for them because it's totally different from their usual hours too, right?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, it's very funny that you say that, Simon, because a lot of times I'll have to remind the performers not to say good evening when they open the show.
Yeah. It's sort of like when I fill in the afternoon and I say good morning. No. Hold on. This is different from my usual hours, right? So it is a good reminder. So things begin tomorrow. Right. There are 20 events this year.
Yes.
20. It is a bountiful offering that you present to us once again. We can't go through everything, but you're going to be sharing some highlights. Where would you like to start?
Well, let's start tomorrow.
Sure.
I have Paul Samin, who's the editor of the Winnipeg Free Press, and it's the 150th anniversary of the Winnipeg Free Press. So I thought it would be interesting to have him come and speak to the Music N Mavens audience. So we're starting with a speaker this year. I usually start with a concert, but I thought Paul would be just such a great opener. And then next week on Tuesday, we have Central Soundwave, which is Jeremy Cause and Derek Gottfried, and they're doing popular songs from the 70s to today. So if you rocked out in the 70s, you can start your vocal warm-ups now because Jeremy and Derek are just fabulous performers.
They are.
And they're going to be singing all the songs that people used to love in the 70s. We've got the Monica Wall Band, who are doing From Ella with Love. So the great late Ella Fitzgerald, her music. So a true jazz afternoon on the 26th. Let me see. I want to talk about Sonia Lazar, who is performing courtesy of the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra. We're able to use the special violin on which Sonia performed at the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra when she was a part of the Violins of Hope program. And we're going to be having her perform on that specific violin a whole program of Jewish music on February the 7th. So that's exciting.
Just to jump in quickly here, there was a performance, as you mentioned, with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra a few weeks back, and a very special one, Violins of Hope. These are violins that have been lovingly restored by two luthiers, violins that survived the Holocaust. These are incredible instruments, and the concert that took place was a very, very moving one. One of the violins is on display at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and this is a wonderful opportunity to once again hear the voice of the instrument, but also the voice of the people, right, who played these instruments in years past. A very moving concert that's coming up February 7th. You've only previewed 3 shows, and I'm already excited here, Carla. Again, there's 20 offerings. What would you like to talk about next?
Well, Gillian Williams, who's doing Women in Musical Theater. And Gillian is a very busy singer, dancer, actor in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And she's going to be performing with the fabulous Paul DeGurse. And she's going to be telling stories and songs of these great women who've been writing music and performing from the golden age of Rodgers and Hammerstein to contemporary musicals. So I think that's just going to be a really fun musical theater offering. Yeah, and I'm going to jump ahead into late February when I have Andrina Turenne, the sweet little Franco trio with Gilles Fournier and Daniel Roy, who are all Franco-Manitoban. They're all Métis. They're doing this great joie de vivre kind of show. Mm-hmm. So I specifically requested, I want some French content. And Andrina came up with this, what we call the sweet little Franco trio.
Oh, that'll be great. And again, some very talented performers that trio consists of. So a special one to mark on the calendar. Somewhat selfishly, I do want to point out just before that on Thursday, the 26th, a concert called The Two Myrons.
Yes.
And one of the Myrons I know well. I've performed with him in Hoosli. The other Myron has been a guest in the Classic 107 studio a number of times. Can you tell us a little bit more about that one?
Sure. Well, yes, Myron Schultz and Myron Kurjewicz.
Yeah, Kurjewicz.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the correct pronunciation.
Yeah.
Kurjewicz, thank you. Yes, so, they're doing this great little number of a duo, and one on accordion and one on clarinet. And, apparently they met on Selkirk Avenue in Winnipeg. So
it's going to be a special one.
Yeah, it is.
It really, really is.
Yeah,
and two phenomenal players, too. I'm sure it's going to be a very virtuosic afternoon.
Right.
All right. Okay, back to your little teasers there, Carla.
No, absolutely. So, a concert I also wanted to mention on March the 2nd, I'm calling it Songs from the Brill Building. And if people are familiar with the Brill Building is in New York City, and it was an amazing building out of which great songwriters' songs were created. And so I wanted to take a trip to the Brill Building, and I asked Phil Corin, who's a fabulous music director in the city, to put a show together. He's working with singers Melanie White and Matthew Fletcher to put together this performance, highlighting some of the great, Paul Simon, Neil Sedaka, Carole King, Neil Diamond, Burt Bacharach, all these singers that came out of that amazing building, the Brill Building in New York.
Yeah, it's going to be another one where I think people are going to be singing along, humming along. They're going to recognize a lot of the tunes.
Absolutely.
Just to jump back to another show that kind of caught my eye, pun intended. Really excited to see that you're giving Mark Rash the opportunity to talk about some of the outstanding images that he's made. Just a wonderful fellow. I mean, a great photographer. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that one?
Sure. Well, Mark's presentation is called Music Made Visible. And Mark is a photographer who's photographed a number of artists, the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, Manitoba Chamber Orchestra, Agassiz Chamber Music Festival. And his photos have appeared in the Free Press, the Globe, the National Post, Canadian Museum for Human Rights. So he's going to do an illustrated lecture of his photographs, revealing the player's artistry and commitment and how he documents the connection between a musician and his or her music. So very interesting, especially for photographers.
Yeah, those who enjoy hearing stories behind the images, right? Because I mean, there is that connection that is made between subject and photographer, whether it's an active connection or that capture of a special moment. Mark does that so phenomenally well. So very excited to see him on the program. Who else would you like to just kind of preview as we're kind of making our way through this diverse offering?
The Kulak Family Band.
Yeah.
They are so much fun.
They are.
I've known Danny Kulak forever, and he's just this amazing folk and klezmer performer. He performed in Finjan. He shows up in so many shows throughout the city. As a matter of fact, he's also in the Two Myrons playing the bass with them. It's just Danny's everywhere. So Danny's two kids, George Bajer Kulak and Amina Bajer Kulak, are doing a show, the three of them together, which is going to be so much fun. They sing in Yiddish and Spanish and English and French, and they're just this really talented family of folk musicians. So I'm excited to have them on the bill.
I love that the Kulak Family Band photo is just a photo of George, who I went through music school with. It is just the most smiling-faced photo of George I've ever seen. And one of those to check out. I also went through high school with Amina. So again, lots of connections. I mean, this is what's so special, I think, about Winnipeg Concert Series is that you get that 2 degrees of separation, not 6, right? Even with Daniel Kulak reuniting with Myron Schultz and joining Myron Kurkiewicz in that show we mentioned earlier. All sorts of connections in this program that you've presented. There's a few other shows to close things out, a couple of musical offerings with the Very Groovy Things, and then also the Sadler Sisters. Carla, it's going to be a great show. Remind us where everything takes place.
Everything takes place at the Rady Jewish Community Center, 123 Doncaster Street, and we've got space for everybody. It's for people of all ages, of all backgrounds, and anybody who has the time in the middle of the afternoon and is searching for stimulation. Please come out.
Yeah, 2 p.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays, beginning tomorrow, running through March 23rd. Music and Mavens returns to the Rady JCC. Carla, great seeing you as always, and happy music and mavening. I don't know if that works, but anyway, good seeing you as always.
Thanks very much, Simon.